Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for December 3rd, 2024. Thank you for joining me. You can watch on YouTube if you would like. You just need to go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan. You will find the live broadcast there. We're also on Twitter, at Matt Skraby, MattsKraby, as in boy Y, and Twitch. If you go to at 97.3 The Fan SD on Twitter, you'll be able to find the stream as well. Happy to be here tonight. Really fun show. Miles Bird was great. I love it when interviews happen and the person on the other end of the phone is just kicking butt. And that's exactly what Miles Bird did. And Tony's right. There was a significant improvement in Miles Bird in his interviews. So he's been doing some work on the court and he's been doing some work with the interviews. But if you missed it, if you're just tuning in, getting out of work or something, we talked to Miles Bird of Aztecs basketball. You can go to 973thefansd.com, podcast section, Gwen and Chris, and you'll be able to find the interview there. But tonight we have some fun things to talk about. I want to talk about super teams because it's kind of the topic right now. I also want to talk about this Rob Manfred golden at bat idea. And then at 6:20, I'm going to go through AJ Preller's history of the catching position and what he spent, how much he spent, what percentage of the team roster or team salary he spends each year on the catcher position. So I have a bunch of numbers and I've rounded all of them so that they're easier to understand. But we're going to get into it because Kyle Higashioka left to go to the Rangers, and I think I may have picked up Chris's little throat thing. I don't know what's going on here. We'll get through it, though. But Kyle Higashioka went to the Rangers 2 years. I've seen two different figures. I've seen $12.5 million, and then on MLB Network, they actually had $12.5 million earlier. Now they have $13.5 million. Either way, he's going to Texas, and he's going to be there for at least 2 years. Possibly 3. I think there's a mutual option on the third year. But Kyle Higashioka, I'm not surprised that he's not with the team. We talked about it a few times leading up to it, whether or not he was going to take more money. This is the time for Kyle Higashioka to try and not strike it rich. I mean, he's making good money. But in baseball terms, this is his time to kind of try to make some money to set him up for the rest of his life, because he's kind of been, I wouldn't say journeyman, but he was a backup catcher for the Yankees. He also was kind of like a throw-in with the Juan Soto trade, and it turns out that he had an incredible impact on this Padres team in 2024, and I almost said 2024, and we'll get into all the specifics on pay and all that stuff. Finally, we have the Daily Gripe at the end, and the Bears, they fired the head coach, Matt Eberflus. I mean, the Bears haven't done that since like World War II, fire a coach mid-season. So it has been a long time since they did that. But I'm reading more and more about the fallout from this, and there's something about the way the Bears players are talking about the coach that makes me think it was on both sides. It was on the player's side and it was on the head coaching side. So we'll talk about that then Daily Gripe. But let's get into super teams right now, because super teams are the topic of the town. We're going to talk to Matt Snyder tomorrow of CBS Sports. He wrote an article about super teams and about the Blake Snell thing. So I like having Matt Snyder on the show because he will tell us the truth and he gives us a national opinion. We're not so locked into our little bubble of San Diego here. But Tony made a really, 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 really good point yesterday. And I don't want to be the guy crying on the radio about the Dodgers, but I do think that the sentiment of being bummed is shared among fans. No one wants to see one or two teams get everyone. And again, I don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, this is unfair. The Dodgers are too good. They have too much money. That's not who I want to be, because in the end, I know that every team could be doing the same thing with deferrals and spending money. And so when Tony was saying that yesterday about being the guy who's crying or being the fan who's crying about the Dodgers getting better, I I just think that it's so hard not to think that way. I'm battling in my head. And I think some other people are like this. But I'm battling in my head that I hate the Dodgers and what they're doing to baseball right now. And I'm also like on Tony's side. Other teams can do this. Deferrals can happen. It's not just a Dodgers thing. Now, I do think that deferrals work for certain situations. Like Shohei deferring $680 million is a big, huge, massive number. And I think that's where we started getting like, huh? You can do this and you can do that much? You can defer $680 million so that they can sign some other players? I think in the initial shock of everything, it really did not sit well with me. I do think I was going to say I do think it's cheating, but I can't say it's cheating because it's not cheating. But and I keep saying but because this is the internal struggle I'm having. Why do I feel so strongly? If this was the Texas Rangers, would I be as upset? Probably not. I think it has to do with the fact that one or two teams are just spending money to outdo each other, which is the Mets and the Dodgers. I don't like that it's not spread around baseball. I don't like it that some teams have a payroll of $60 million or less, and other teams have a payroll of $300 million or more. But the deferral thing works for certain teams, and it works for the Dodgers because the guys that are deferring some of their salary are already making a ton of money. So it's not like they're really, it's easy for me to say, going to miss that money. Like for Blake Snell's $50 million. He's going to make that up in endorsements. He's got, let me just say this about Blake Snell. I'm not mad at Blake Snell for signing the contract because this is the best possible move for him. And during his press conference, he said he wanted to live in LA. This is the place he wanted to be, which bothers me, but I get it. This is a great career move for Blake Snell on and off the baseball field. It's a move that'll help him with life after baseball. Maybe he can get into the circles where he's doing, TV stuff or, he's in LA. Anything can happen with him in LA. And he has that big Twitch following. Like Blake Snell, it makes sense for him to go where a lot of opportunity is. It just doesn't make sense that it just doesn't sit right with me that the Dodgers are signing $182 million contracts like it's nothing. So again, I'm battling with my head. I think in other markets as well, with the Dodgers in LA, Mets in New York, it's really easy for you to be able to defer the money. And also it's really easy it's really easy for those teams to make more money because they have more customers. And I don't think a team like the Minnesota Twins or I'm trying to think of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't think it's as easy for them to make money. Now, can they go out, get a loan, do all that stuff to get guys on the team? Yeah, they can. But it doesn't make business sense. I'm going to come out on the side of this is not cheating, but I do think that baseball needs to look at this a little bit. I do. And this is not me crying. Like I opened the show, I did not want to be the guy crying. And I'm not crying because I'm going to accept and move forward. But I think baseball definitely needs to take a look at this in the next collective bargaining agreement. Because I don't think that teams thought the deferrals were going to be as much as the Dodgers are putting into it with the $680 million. The 50 something or $65 million for Blake Snell, the $50 million for or $25 million for Tommy Edman, Glasnow, everyone on the Dodgers. I think baseball is going to have to look at this because it does, I guess, create a fair playing field because teams could do this, but what team actually has, there's not many teams that actually have the bankroll behind them to be able to do this. And then you have to also have the player that wants to do it. Blake Snell, he's going to be fine with money. So he can do this. And honestly, I would love to defer. If I was making a ton of money, I would love to defer that money. it would be nice to have some of that money down the road so that I know in the back of my head, hey, I need to make it to here, and then I get my $5 million. I think it's $10 million for Blake Snell per year. So he's going to just, for doing nothing, he's going to get $10 million, which I really like. I think that's a great idea for the individual. I just don't think it works in a sports setting. I don't think baseball needs a salary cap. I don't think they need something like that. I like that baseball is different in that way, but they need to do it better. And the luxury tax is somewhat of a salary cap. You go over the luxury tax, you're going to pay a tax on that, but it's not stopping teams from doing it, because I believe the Dodgers are in their 4th year of luxury tax. I believe it's the 4th year. But they've done it a few years in a row. And when the penalty isn't a penalty to a team, then that's when the field becomes a little, the playing field becomes a little unfair. Because if the Dodgers just do not care about the luxury tax and they're willing to pay the fine, then what's the point of the rule? Isn't the rule to deter someone? Isn't the rule to deter teams from signing guys to huge contracts because it will count against their luxury tax? Like, isn't that the point of the whole thing? It's not working for teams like the Mets and teams like the Dodgers. Now, the Padres were over the luxury tax too. 2 years ago, they were over the luxury tax. In 2023, they were. But they had to cut a ton of payroll because they just didn't find it to be good business to break the luxury tax for a 3rd year in a row and pay a ton of money on top of what you're already paying your players. But I think over the next couple years, baseball will be talking about this. I don't know if it's going to change. I really don't know if it's going to change. But it's something that I think they need to look at for the reason of fans. And they're in the business right now of getting all these new fans. They're in the business of kids coming to the game. They're in the business of making this a better product to watch from home. They're making this right now the business of bringing in new fans, growing the game. And I think fans don't understand that there are all these kind of strange luxury tax rules, and there are ways to get around certain contracts, and there are ways to do this and do that. And I think for these new fans, baseball's going to have to figure out a way to either educate them on what's happening, or they're going to have to figure out a way to make it a little bit more of a fair playing field. I saw a random ham on the chat, and it says, random ham, what did he say? Oh, harsher penalties. I'm trying to look for the actual thing. It just went by. A lot of people are commenting. Thank you for commenting. Oh, maybe harsher penalties for continually going over the cap. They already have pretty harsh penalties, but I guess you can't. I guess for each year, I'm not going to make up a rule on the air right now, but I do like the idea of harsher penalties. You have to find what works to deter teams from taking advantage of the loophole. That's what I'm saying. Let's go to, I want to see what Oscar says, because Oscar has a Dodgers logo. Oscar is a very nice listener, so I'm not going to hate on Oscar. Oscar says, everyone hates the Dodgers and any other team that is successful. It all starts with ownership and trickles down. It also doesn't happen overnight. I agree with that. It doesn't happen overnight. It starts with ownership. We always say that. Teams are successful because their ownership is good. Padres have been successful because they have a good ownership right now. The Dodgers obviously have good ownership. There are definitely owners around the league, like Colorado Rockies, Dick Monfort, who's probably not the best owner in the world. And I know the Marlins have made some interesting decisions in the last few years. But the reason that I think it's bothering me so much is just because not my entire life, but most of my adult life, it's always been Dodgers, Yankees, Dodgers, Yankees. I want to see new teams. I really do. I would love to see a Padres Royals World Series. I think that would be great. And if I'm not going to put the Padres in the World Series, I would like to see let's go with the Mariners, and I would like to see a Mariners. I got to pick an NL team and not embarrass myself. I would like to see the Mariners and I'm blanking right now. The Rockies. I just want to see different teams. Different teams. So, anyway, that's my little thought on super teams. I don't want to be the guy crying. I don't think I came off crying, but I think I accurately displayed how the battle is in my head about this topic because it goes back and forth all the time. I'm also very ADD today, so maybe that's why it is as well. All right, you're listening to the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. When we get back, we're going to talk about the catching position. I've been teasing it, so we're going to get into it. We still have the golden at-bat idea from Rob Manfred, and we also have that Bears topic at the end of the show. So stick with me. You're listening to the Skraby Show. You can join us on YouTube. Just search 97.3 The Fan. And you can also go to my Twitter at Matt Skraby, MattsKraby as in boy, Y. Back shortly on 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back into the Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan. Just got done talking about super teams, the Dodgers, luxury tax, deferred money, all of the favorite topics here on 97.3 The Fan as of late. I guess we would like to be talking about deferred money on the Padres side, but that is yet to happen. Who knows? Could happen. Still a lot of time before the season begins. I mean, AJ Preller is working his magic. He doesn't sleep. Come on. We all know this. We all know that he doesn't sleep. All right, before we get into this catching thing with AJ Preller's history, with how much he spends and all that, I saw something over the weekend one of my friends had that he thought was amazing. And I really didn't think it was that amazing. And I'm getting old because I'm talking about a washer-dryer system. And so my friend got a washer-dryer that is the same unit. It's a washer and a dryer. You don't have to move the clothes over, which at face value, that sounds amazing. It sounds amazing that you don't have to move the clothes over. Once the wash is done, you do the drying thing. You don't have to pick them up. Bada bing, bada boom. You're all done. And I watched him do a load of laundry, and I thought it was cool for a second. But then I realized, how do you keep washing your clothes? It takes twice as long to wash your clothes in one of those things. I don't know if anybody's listening and has one of those washer dryer things. I don't know if you thought of that or if you don't do your laundry that way. I guess I hate doing laundry, like capital HATE. I hate doing it. I hate folding. I'm always the guy who leaves stuff in his pocket, so I'm checking pockets 100 million times. I've washed my phone before. It hasn't happened in a very, very, very long time, but it has happened. I like to do my laundry where, you do the wash, you move it over to the dryer. While it's drying, you do your second load of laundry, and then you move it over to the dryer. If you have a third load of laundry, you could do that while the second load of laundry is drying. With this 2-in-1 washer-dryer combo, you can't do that. I think that's a major downfall of the washer-dryer combo. Now, if you don't have a lot of laundry to do, then it's not a big deal. But for a family like my friend, I didn't understand it. I really didn't understand it. Paul says he has one on his boat. Well, that makes sense. I mean, you need to save space on the boat. So I guess I understand why there's a washer-dryer combo unit on the boat. But with a friend who has 3 kids, I think that's crazy. I think it's crazy because I don't have any kids, but I have nieces. I've been around, I'm the oldest grandchild of like 25. So I've been around little kids my entire life. All I know is they get dirty a lot and you have to wash a lot of clothes and you're constantly washing clothes. So I don't know. I found it very weird. If anybody has any thoughts on the washer dryer combo, let me know. It's hot topics here on 97.3 The Fan. All right. Kyle Higashioka. We briefly talked about it. He's a Texas Ranger now. It's going to be making 2 years, $13.5 million. But I was pretty surprised by the reaction of people once we found out that he was going to the Rangers and for what amount of money he was going to the Rangers for, which again, 2 years, $13.5 million. But I was thinking about his production last year. 17 home runs, hit 220, had 40-something RBIs. And he did have an incredible season for the Padres, and he had some pretty big home runs. Like, not only did Kyle Higashioka have an incredible season, but he had a really clutch season. There were a lot of times that Higashioka had the hit that the Padres needed to win a game or to get in scoring position or something. He was coming through clutch a lot. So I understand why that part hurts, because you form an attachment to a player like that where they're emotionally exciting. You get, when they come up to bat at the end of the game, hey, this guy could hit a home run. He's done it 3 or 4 times this year. Hit a walk-off home run. But Kyle Higashioka had many great moments. I just was not surprised that Kyle Higashioka went to the Texas Rangers. And here's why. I don't know that a 35-year-old catcher is going to have the same season that he did last year. And he's getting a raise. Now, it works out for some teams that Kyle Higashioka can be the average, the normal, or it can hit to his averages, except for last year. Some teams are okay with that. He's a good defender. He's good at handling a pitching staff. So some teams are willing to take that on. But he was making $2.18 million last year, Kyle Higashioka. Played in 84 games. He's making now $5 million coming up, and then $6 million, and there's some change in there. I'm just keeping round numbers. So he's getting like a $3 million raise going into next year. I just don't know that the Padres, it would have been smart for the Padres to bring him back unless they knew that he was going to bring exactly what he brought to the team in 2024. But I am always weary, and I've said this a few times, I'm always a little nervous about players coming off of a career year because it sounds great to bring them back and give them the money that they deserve for the previous year. But when you got someone like Kyle Higashioka, who's 35, who's never done this before, I don't know that you can count on him to hit 17 home runs, have 40-something RBIs. 220 is not a good batting average. It's better than what Austin Hedges hits, or when he was with the Padres. But the money and what you were going to be getting back from Kyle Higashioka did not interest me. So I'm not surprised that the Padres moved on. Now, I'm part of this whole thing too, by the way. We all get too attached to our fan favorite players. So I don't want people to think that I'm like lecturing you on you shouldn't get attached to players. I am attached to players all the time. I don't want Kyle Higashioka to leave because he brought good vibes to the team, did some great interviews, and just overall fit into the clubhouse, fit into the San Diego vibe. And so that right there is why I'm bummed, because he was someone that I think his teammates liked, and I think that the community liked him. That is what bums me out. But if we're looking at what AJ Preller does and what baseball does with catching and salaries and what each team does, coming into today, teams in 2025 are spending an average of $7.2 million on their catching position. I know there's free agents out there. I know there's some numbers that may have come in, but we're just going to use these as of this morning. Most teams spend $7.2 million on their catching position. Average team salary coming into today, $144 million. On average, if you look at all the teams in baseball, teams spend 5% of their overall salary on catchers. And then if you take, there's the top 3 catchers in the league, according to how much money they make, are JT Realmuto, Salvador Perez, and Will Smith of the Dodgers. If you take away those guys, baseball currently has spent $150 million in catching. Those 3 guys are like $60 million right there, $60 million plus. So that inflates the number to 210. So if we take those guys out, $5.6 million is what each team is spending so far on catching. It's going to go up. It will. But because people are going to be signed. But right now, $5.6 million seems like a pretty fair number. Now, in 2024, actually, you know what? I'm going to start with 2014, when AJ Preller took over. And then we're going to go up. And I'm going to give you the numbers of how much he spent each year on catching in regards to the total team salary. So in 2014, when he got here, he spent 2.1% of team money on catching. 2015, 1%. 2016, 4.7%, which is the highest he's ever spent in his tenure with the Padres. And by the way, I'm taking out 2020 because it's prorated, it's skewed. I'm not good at math, so I'm going to take that one out. 2017, 2.4%. 2018, 2.3%. 2019, 2.5%. 2021, he spent 1% on catching. 2022, 1.8. 2023, 1.8. And then last season, 2.3%. On average, in the time that AJ Preller has been the general manager of the Padres, they spend 2.2% of their total salary on catchers. So he's never been a guy who invests heavily money-wise into a catcher. The Padres have not spent more than $5 million on the catcher position since AJ Preller took over in 2014. They've spent an average of $2.8 million yearly on the catcher position, and I think that's a little inflated because some of these guys made some good money a little bit. Like Derek Norris kind of inflated the number a little bit because of the 2016 year and how much they spent. 2023, they spent the most collectively at 4.572. So if you just follow that right there, you can see that's the MO for the Padres is they try to find catching at a value and they try not to spend a ton of money. And I think that's where AJ Preller is going here. He's going to find a catcher that is going to be able to do the job, but isn't necessarily going to make a ton of money. Now, Kyle Higashioka, as we said, he already priced himself out of the quote-unquote AJ Preller price range because he's making over $5 million. If AJ Preller has never spent $5 million or more on a catcher in his time as general manager with the Padres, why would it start now with a 35-year-old catcher? I know that sounds harsh, a 35-year-old catcher, but what if he can't help your team? Why are you going to be paying him all that money? And I'm saying that Kyle Higashioka made the right move. He needs to make this money. He's making $5.75 million in 2025. And then in 2026, he's making $6.75. Both of those numbers way higher than anything AJ Preller has ever spent on the catching position. So when I see the comments of, oh, they didn't sign Kyle Higashioka for 2 years and $13.5 million, the Padres must be out of money. The Padres must not be spending. The Padres must be allocating that for something else. But it follows the trend. It follows the trend throughout the entire time that AJ Preller has been here with the Padres. In 2024, the Padres paid 3 catchers, and they paid Kyle Higashioka played 84 games, $2.18 million. Luis Campusano played 91 games, $754,000. And Elias, I always forget how to pronounce his first name, Diaz played only 12 games. He made $1 million for playing 12 games. That's pretty good. Gary Sanchez, remember him? The Sanchez? 2023, they spent a good amount of money on catching. And I would say that it worked out for them because Gary Sanchez was really good. He played 72 games, hit a bunch of home runs, I think 19. I take back that number. I got a lot of numbers floating in my head. Gary Sanchez, though, made $1.5 million that year. Luis Campusano, $722,000. And Austin Nola, $2.35 million. 2023 was the biggest year in AJ Preller's career with the Padres for catching. And you could almost say that 2023, well, you can say that 2023 was a lost year. And paying all that money for catching kind of hurts a little bit. In 2022, when they made the playoffs, Austin Nola, he actually was only making $726,000. Alfaro was the one who was making the most money at $2.7 million. So when you're looking through all these numbers and you're looking at the number that is allocated catching, Kyle Higashioka, by signing that contract with the Texas Rangers, priced him out of AJ Preller's safe zone. Now, will AJ Preller pay if they trade for like JT Realmuto? I'm sure he will. But the team has never, ever, ever spent a lot of money on catching. This seems to be a strategy of theirs, and it seems to be working. Can they catch lightning in a bottle 3 times in a row? You had Gary Sanchez, you had Kyle Higashioka, and to be determined. I don't like going into a season hoping that someone catches lightning in a bottle to be good, but this is what the Padres have been doing, and it's worked out. But I also think that we may need to be prepared for a catcher that is going to be good defensively, but isn't going to hit that well, and not going to hit as many home runs as Kyle Higashioka, and kind of be that, oh, this guy's coming to the plate. But they play great defense. So I really think this is something that AJ Preller has followed to a T. And when he does spend money, like 2023, they spent $254 total dollars. Not 254, $254 million total dollars. He paid the most ever in his tenure, $4.5 million for catchers. That's only 1.8%. So, on average, 2.2% of the team's salary is spent on catching. So, this is why, not surprising to me, that Kyle Higashioka is a Texas Ranger. Hopefully, I was able to explain that without getting too lost in my numbers. Because, how could I forget about Victor Caratini? Remember him? He made $1.3 million. But in conclusion, one more time, this is not, AJ Preller does not spend money on catching, so we should not expect for him to spend money on catching. It's always been it's always been cobbled together, and it's worked in the last couple of years, but it makes me a little bit nervous for the future. All right. You're listening to the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby. Please let me know what you think about that. At Matt Skraby, MattsKraby, as in boy, Y, if it made sense, if it didn't make sense, if you are really sad about Kyle Higashioka, you can reach out to me as well. But when we get back, we're going to talk about Rob Manfred, the Golden at Bat Rule, Daily Gripe, also the Bears is coming up here on 97.3 The Fan.
The big
Final segment of the Skraby Show. Thanks to everybody who's joined me today. Done a lot of flapping my gums. Got a little bit off track, but we'll be back on track. We got a daily gripe. We got Rob Manfred, and we got the Bears to talk about. My daily gripe, I think people will think it's funny. Well, I don't know about funny. Shouldn't have said funny. It's not funny. I think people are going to like the daily gripe today. Maybe. We'll see. But we were just talking about the catching position and how much money AJ Preller spends on it and all of that. And I got a few things in the break on Twitter. Let's see. One of them says you're not counting. This is from Rory. You're not counting on the $5+ million they gave to Salas. I don't actually. So here's how I got all these numbers. I went to Spotrac. Yes, it is called Spotrac, Spotrac, and I looked up the positional spending across baseball, and then I went back in the different years and wrote down the number. But I never saw Ethan Salas's name on the list of money being spent for the Padres, so I did not include him. International money is kind of different anyway. They have a whole different pool for it. So I'm going to look into that, Rory, and see if that is counted as the catching position. I guess when I say that AJ Preller's he's never spent $5 or more million on a catcher, I should put an addendum, major league catcher, because Ethan Salas, obviously great prospect. They had to go a little bit above and beyond. And if he's good, I don't think that AJ Preller and co are going to hesitate to pay him. But thank you, Rory. I did need to talk about that because Salas, I'm not sure about that $5 million. I will try to check in on that. Joe also asked, isn't it more about talking about the luxury tax? Isn't it more about abusing a system? Deferrals nullify the luxury tax. And it's a good question because I had the same question when Shohei Ohtani signed the contract, and I was like, wait, he's only going to count for $2 million a year against the luxury tax? No. Actually, they did think about this. They did write in some rules about it, and basically he's going to be the max luxury tax for the Dodgers. His luxury tax counts as $46.081 million. So he does account for a lot of money when it comes to that. So they're not skirting and skating by the issues by paying him $2 million because his luxury tax number is a lot higher and it does count for a lot more against their overall team salary. Luis says, interesting numbers presentation, Skraby. Thank you. For me, it's not just about missing Higgy's wry sense of humor and the smarts you need in a catcher, but I'd be nervous about messing with team chemistry. I do think team chemistry is a thing. I say it all the time. Team chemistry is absolutely a thing here in this room. With Chris and Tony, I'm talking about us three. Team chemistry is a thing. And, whenever I'm mad at Chris, our show's not very good. And when I'm happy with Chris, our show's very good. I don't know if that's true, but I'm going to say it and stick with it. But I think the team chemistry will be fine. I do. They're going to have plenty of time to get together before the season starts. Spring training, they'll be able to work together. I don't worry about team chemistry. I don't think, and if you're talking about team chemistry, not just from catching, if you're talking about overall team chemistry, I don't think that the Padres are going to bring in someone who's going to upset the locker room or clubhouse. I don't think that they're going to bring in a guy that's kind of a suspect character. I don't think any of that's going to happen. I think they're going to try to keep that clubhouse the way it is right now, and they're going to keep it tight, and they're going to make sure they have the right people in there. Jack says Soto was bad for team chemistry. I'm not going to say yes or no because I can't prove, but I do think that there was some Soto stuff that did not work well with team chemistry. Juan says, I think losing Profar is worse for the clubhouse chemistry than losing Higgy. Everybody's going to hate me for this, but I think Profar is in somewhat of the same situation that Kyle Higashioka was in. I know that Profar's only like 31 or 32, and I know that he's a big part of the team, but I don't know you're going to overpay for a guy like Profar. I don't know. And I haven't really thought about what to pay Profar. I know we've talked about like 2 years, $26 million, $13 million a year. If he wants to do that, fine. But I don't know that they can count on Profar starting left field, being an everyday left fielder for the next 2 seasons. I just can't see it. His knees were already, there was some stuff at the end of the year that kind of caught up to him. He's played a lot of baseball in his life. I think he has 10 years of service time. I mean, Jerks and Profar are great for the team, but this is another one of those we get too attached to our players here in town. And again, I'm not blaming anyone for getting too attached because I do it all the time. And Profar is one of those guys. But if they can find better value in left field and maybe get a guy in there that is not going to slow down as the year goes, then I think that might be better for the team. I really do. I don't want him to go anywhere, but I don't know that Profar, and I said this last year, so I'm really putting myself out there and making me look kind of dumb. I said this last year. I don't think Profar is going to change the fortunes of the team. He did last year, so I should probably just stop talking about this until something happens with Profar, because I was wrong last year, and for all I know, I'm going to be wrong again this year. All right. The Golden at Bat thing. We talked about it yesterday, and it was missed in this podcast. John, you end, in October, this podcast happened. The Varsity is what it's called. And no one talked about it until Jason Stark wrote an article yesterday, about this, talking about the Golden at Bat, which basically is this. You have 1 time per game. You can put any player you want at the plate. So say it's 9th inning. Say Manny Machado. I don't know specifics of the rules, but I'll just say Manny Machado is not up for another 6 batters, and it's bottom of the 9th, 2 outs. You need Manny Machado. You can pull your Golden at Bat, and you can take Manny Machado out of order, and you could put him in the game and see if he can do something for you. I think that it's stupid. And I do think that Rob Manfred, he's feeling good about some of these rules that he's put in place, which have worked out for him. Pitch clock, mound visits, all of that stuff has worked. We're going to get the automated balls and strike system. Yet to know if that's going to work, but I think it will. And I think it will be fine if they use the challenge system. But this is stupid of Rob Manfred. This is a very, very dumb comment from him. Because now, to me, a little bit, I don't think this is going to affect Rob Manfred's legacy, but I think in the future, when we talk about Rob Manfred, I know I'll reference. Remember that one time he wanted to do the golden at bat rule? I think that's pretty. I think that's kind of. It's not making a mockery of the sport. That's too serious. But I do think that Rob Manfred didn't think it through when he said that owners were buzzing about this, because that tends to make people think that they like this and they may implement this. And I think this would be so dumb, and they would have to redo record books. They would have to do a lot of stuff if they did this golden at bat thing. I know you could say the same thing for a ghost runner, but at least the ghost runner isn't like batting out of order. It's the last person out. So I'm just not a fan of Rob Manfred. I know he was probably trying to go for a little fun conversation about this. Did not go over well. People are pretty upset about the rule. Upset is the word. So come on, Rob Manfred. Be a commissioner. Stop just throwing things out there. Real quick, Bears, because I am running out of time. And I do this every time I run out of time. I got to make sure I get my gripe in there. And I'm going to go a little bit over. And that means I got to, just for everybody out there, since I'm here by myself, I got to move the legal ID a little bit so that I don't trigger it. There, we're good. The Bears, they fired their coach. And they fired a coach for the first time since like World War II. But there's a new article out, and according to this article from The Athletic, many of the Bears players after their game on Thanksgiving where Eberflus didn't take the timeout and then said he liked what he did there, they were very upset, and they were asking him after the game about why he didn't call a timeout. And then multiple players started asking this, and Eberflus didn't have any answers or wouldn't answer. So there wasn't really anything left to say. So he just left the locker room after his speech and the exchange with the players. And it forced the Bears into a position where they're looking at a mutiny if these Bears players don't want to play for Matt Eberflus. And so it is time to fire them and fire them for it's time to fire them in season for the first time in a very long time. Now, here's where I think the Bears players might be as responsible as Matt Eberflus. Because when you read about what the Bears are saying, the Bears players have a major issue with Eberflus and how he didn't take accountability for certain things that he should have taken accountability for. The play before Jaden Daniels threw the Hail Mary and it was caught and the Bears lost and it was terrible for them. The players had the issue with the play call before. Called too soft to coverage, gave him enough yards so that Jaden Daniels can chuck one to the end zone. But the amount of players that were like upset that he wouldn't take accountability for that, and the amount of players that were kind of like, hey, we lost this game because you did that. I'm not seeing, to me, players on the field have the ultimate say in whether or not they win or lose. Yes, coaches do matter. Yes, game plans do matter. But when you're a Bears player and when you're DJ Moore and you're getting paid so much money and you just don't really seem like you want to be there, you're walking off the field and sitting on the bench, like that's not on Eberflus. I mean, that's kind of on you, DJ Moore. Why are you? I know you had an excuse for it. Your ankle was hurting or whatever, but it's not a good look. And a lot of these players are saying, well, he wasn't taking accountability for what he did wrong. Well, maybe look within first. Maybe say, hey, could I have played better? Could I have done anything different? Now, do I think Matt Eberflus was going to get fired no matter what? Yes. But I think the Bears players need to stop blaming him and maybe blame themselves. That's what I learned in AA. And sometimes it's not them, it's me. And so that's why I always blame myself first when things go wrong, because it's probably my fault. But I found it interesting that Bears players were very angry with the coach for not being accountable for things. Instead of them not covering instead of Tyreek Stevenson, talking to the fans, he's over there giving up the game-winning touchdown. That's your fault, sir. That's your fault. It's not Eberflus's fault that you were talking to the fans. So I think everybody needs to look a little bit within themselves.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Dominic says fish rots from the head down. that true? Like, it can't start on the tail and go up? I don't know. I've never watched a fish rot. So, all right, my daily gripe for today is something that happened when we went golfing weeks ago. And it's one of those golf tournaments where, you know, they have people set up at holes, and when you go up, you get to talk to these people. It's like a company or a sponsor or something. This one happened to be an alcoholic beverage. And so they were, hey, everybody, how's it going? Come on over, see what we got. And I realized it was an alcoholic drink. And so she said, can I pour one for you? And I said, no, I don't drink anymore. It's all good. Thank you for the offer. This is my daily gripe. When people tell me to drink, after I tell them, don't drink. I don't drink. And then, so her response was, oh, you could just have a little bit today, right? And I said, no. If you give me that little shot of whatever liquor you have, I'm going to be bouncing off of the walls. And I'm going to be doing crazy things. And I'm going to ruin my life. So that's what I said to her, honestly. Daily gripe, bottom line. When I tell people I don't drink and they're offering me a drink and they continue to offer me the drink. If you're out there, I understand it's a friendly thing to do to offer someone a drink, but when they say no, respect it. That's all you got to do. Just be like, cool. All right, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to go talk to that guy over there. Don't tell someone that doesn't drink anymore that they should, oh, just have a little bit. Just have a little bit. Doesn't work that way, everybody. At least for me, doesn't work that way. All right, that's it for the Skraby Show. Back tomorrow night. Back with Gwen and Chris tomorrow. We have Matt Snyder on the show. Ben and Woods start at 6 a.m. Annie Nelson, 10 a.m. Thanks to everybody who's been listening tonight. And I went way over, so yeah, I'm going to have to deal with that tomorrow. Good night, everyone.